Almost every Toyota owner has heard the same advice. Change your oil, rotate your tires, keep the coolant topped off, and those things matter. But there is a completely different category of improvement that most Toyota drivers never touch. Bolt-on modifications that have been tested on a dynamometer, validated by real data, and proven to move the needle on performance, efficiency, or reliability. All for under $100. We already covered 5 in the last video. The response was enormous. So today, we are going back in. These are 5 more genius Toyota mods, backed by dyno numbers, real-world results, and the kind of engineering logic that makes them worth every dollar. Let's start. Mod number 1, high-flow drop-in air filter replacement. The stock paper air filter inside your Toyota's airbox, that rectangular housing sitting between the engine and the intake tube, does a competent job from the factory. But competent and optimal are 2 different things. Paper filtration media restricts airflow at higher engine speeds, and restricted airflow means the engine has to work harder to pull in the air it needs for combustion. The result is a measurable loss of power and a slight increase in fuel consumption under load. A high-flow drop-in air filter, made by brands like K&N, AFE, or Spectre, replaces that paper element with an oiled cotton gauze material that allows significantly more air to pass through while still filtering contaminants. You drop it directly into the existing airbox. No new pipes, no new hardware. The same bolt locations, the same housing, just a different filter element. On Toyota's 2.5-liter dynamic force engine, the one found in the 2021 and newer Camry, RAV4, and Venza, independent dyno testing has shown gains of 3 to 6 horsepower at peak. The most noticeable improvement happens between 3,500 and 5,500 RPM, exactly where spirited driving and highway merging take place. On 4-cylinder platforms like the Corolla's 2-liter M20A engine, similar testing has confirmed a 2 to 4 horsepower increase, along with a documented improvement of 1 to 2 miles per gallon on highway cycles. The reason this mod holds up across platforms is thermodynamic. More airflow into the combustion chamber allows the engine control unit, ECU, to optimize the air-to-fuel ratio more accurately. Toyota's modern engines are incredibly adaptive. Give them better breathing room and they will use it. Cost $40 to $65. Install time under 10 minutes. Dyno tested, proven, and reversible if you ever sell the car. Mod number 2, throttle body spacer installation. This one is less understood but more interesting than most people expect. The throttle body is the valve that sits between the intake manifold and the air intake pipe, controlling how much air enters the engine based on accelerator input. On most Toyota 4-cylinder and V6 engines, the throttle body bolts directly to the intake manifold flange. Air rushes through and enters the intake ports with minimal mixing. A throttle body spacer is a machined aluminum ring, usually 1 inch thick, that bolts between the throttle body and the intake manifold using the existing mounting hardware. The interior of the spacer is machined with spiral grooves that cause incoming air to rotate, creating a vortex effect before the air enters the manifold. This rotational airflow results in better atomization of the fuel-air mixture and more complete combustion. On the Toyota Tacoma's 3.5-liter V35A engine, which has been a subject of heavy enthusiast testing due to its widespread popularity, dyno pulls have shown gains of 4 to 9 horsepower and a torque improvement of 6 to 12 pound-feet in the mid-range. The torque improvement is actually more useful day-to-day than the peak horsepower number. Better mid-range torque means the engine feels more responsive from a stop during highway passing and under load when carrying cargo or towing. The installation on most Toyota models requires removing the intake pipe, unbolting the throttle body, sliding the spacer into place, and rebolting. 4 bolts. No electrical work. No ECU tune required. Total time with basic hand tools is 30 to 45 minutes. Cost, $35 to $75 depending on make and material. Gains are consistent and repeatable across multiple independent dyno sessions from owners in the Tacoma world, Camry forums, and TRD community. Mod number 3. Iridium spark plug upgrade. Toyota engines leave the factory with perfectly adequate copper core or standard platinum spark plugs. Adequate is the right word, because adequate is exactly what the factory specification requires. Adequate to last, adequate to pass emissions, adequate to run smoothly under normal conditions. But spark plugs age, and they degrade gradually in a way most owners never notice. As spark plugs wear, the gap between the center electrode and the ground electrode widens slightly. A wider gap requires more voltage to fire the plug, which places strain on the ignition coil and produces a weaker, less consistent spark. The result is incomplete combustion, reduced fuel economy, occasional misfire under load, and subtle power loss that builds up over tens of thousands of miles without ever triggering a check engine light. Iridium spark plugs, like the NGK Laser Iridium or Denso Iridium power plugs, use an ultra-fine iridium tip on the center electrode that is approximately 0.6 millimeters in diameter, compared to a 1.1 millimeter tip on a standard copper plug. That smaller, sharper tip requires less voltage to fire and produces a more focused, hotter spark. The result is more complete combustion on every cycle. On the Toyota Camry 2.5-liter engine, owners running standard to Iridium comparisons on a chassis dyno have documented gains of 4 to 7 horsepower and a fuel economy improvement of 1.5 to 3 miles per gallon, particularly in city driving where combustion quality has the most impact on efficiency. On the 4Runner 4.0-liter 1GRFE V6 engine, which is notorious for running slightly rich from the factory, the Iridium upgrade has shown consistent gains of 6 to 10 horsepower at peak, with the improvement most pronounced at lower RPM, where combustion quality matters most for daily driving. Toyota recommends Iridium plugs as original equipment on many of their newer models for exactly this reason. Fitting them to older vehicles is simply bringing the same technology forward. Cost is $40 to $80 for a full set, depending on cylinder count. Install time is 30 to 60 minutes. This is one of the highest return on investment modifications available on any engine platform. Mod number 4, Performance Radiator Hose Upgrade. This one looks boring on paper. It is not boring in practice. The upper and lower radiator hoses, the large rubber tubes connecting the radiator to the engine block, and the thermostat housing do one job. They carry coolant between the engine and the radiator to manage operating temperature. Factory rubber hoses do this reliably for 80,000 to 120,000 miles before they begin to soften, swell, or degrade from the inside out. What most owners do not realize is that degraded rubber hoses shed small particles of interior rubber into the cooling system. Those particles circulate with the coolant and gradually accumulate in the narrow passages of the radiator core, the water pump impeller, and the heater core, the small radiator-like component inside the dashboard responsible for cabin heat. Restricted flow through any of these components forces the engine to run slightly hotter and consistently elevated coolant temperature is one of the leading causes of early head gasket wear on Toyota's aluminum cylinder heads. Silicone-reinforced radiator hoses, available from brands like Samco Sport and HPS Performance for most Toyota models, replace the factory rubber with multiply silicone that does not degrade, does not shed particles, and maintains its diameter under pressure far more consistently than rubber. On the Toyota Tundra, 5.7-liter, 3URF EV, 8 engine, owners who switched to silicone hoses and flushed the cooling system documented a reduction in peak operating temperature of 8 to 12 degrees Fahrenheit under towing conditions. For an engine that already runs warm by design, that temperature reduction directly translates to reduced combustion chamber heat, lower stress on seals and gaskets, and measurably extended engine life. This is not a power mod. It is a protection mod. In Toyota ownership, protection mods with documented results are often worth more than power mods over the long term. Cost is $60 to $95 for a full set. Installation requires basic coolant system knowledge and proper flushing procedure. Always refill with Toyota-approved long-life coolant. Mod number 5. Short throw shifter installation for manual transmission Toyotas. For any Toyota owner driving a manual transmission, whether that is the GR Corolla, the GR86, the Tacoma manual, or older Supra and MR2 platforms, this modification is in a different category from everything else on this list. It is the most immediately noticeable change you will make to how your Toyota feels to drive. The stock manual shifter in most Toyota vehicles uses a tall lever with a relatively long throw distance between gears. The distance from first to second, second to third, and so on, is designed to be forgiving and easy for a wide range of drivers, which reduces the chance of missed shifts for inexperienced drivers. But it also slows down every gear change, and it makes the driving experience feel less connected and less precise than the mechanical components underneath actually are. A short throw shifter, like the Racing Ashiko, the Greddy Type S, or the Perrin Performance Unit for GR applications, replaces the factory shifter lever, and in some cases the shift mechanism itself. By moving the pivot point closer to the driver's hand, the throw distance between gears is reduced by 30 to 50% depending on the design. The result is faster, more mechanical, more tactile gear engagement on every shift. Dyno testing confirms what driver feedback already established. On the GR86 FA24 engine, back-to-back testing, with and without a short throw shifter, showed a 0.3 to 0.5 second improvement in average shift time during simulated performance driving sequences. Over a full performance lap at road course pace, those shifts compound into a measurable advantage in power delivery continuity. Beyond the performance data, this mod transforms daily driving. Highway on-ramp pulls, spirited canyon routes, and even routine commuting all feel more engaged and more precise. On a GR Corolla running the 1.6-liter G16E GTS turbocharged engine, owners consistently report that the short throw shifter is the single best under $100 modification in terms of driving satisfaction per dollar spent. Cost, $65 to $95. Install time, 20 to 40 minutes with basic hand tools. No engine control unit changes, no alignment needed, no trade-offs. Here is the core principle behind every modification on this list. Toyota builds its vehicles with margins. Margins for reliability, margins for production consistency, margins for regulatory compliance, and margins for the broadest possible range of drivers. Those margins are intentional. and they are responsible for Toyota's legendary longevity. But those margins also mean the factory setup is rarely optimized for any one specific driver or use case. These 5 modifications work by closing those margins in specific, controlled ways. Better airflow, better spark quality, more complete combustion, lower operating temperatures, more precise mechanical input. None of them push the engine beyond its design limits. All of them have been validated on a chassis dynamometer with repeatable results. Under $100 per modification. Proven data behind every one of them. Your Toyota was already built to last. These modifications ensure it performs at its actual potential while it does. If you found this useful, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. In the next video, I am showing you 5 more Toyota factory service procedures that most independent shops skip, and why skipping them quietly cuts your engine life in half.